Good morning, everybody. Unfortunately, I don't speak any Italian apart from 2 or 3 words, so the presentation is going to be in English. I will try and speak slowly. Sometimes I go too quickly. If there's anything you don't understand, if you put your hand up, and I can try and explain and repeat. Thank you for your very warm welcome. It's very nice. That round of applause. I hope I'm worth it. I've been to Rimini before, about 10 years ago, so it's nice to come back. I spent 2 days here, so in the summer, around June time, so obviously the weather's a little bit different from the summer, so as I said, it's nice to be back. My name is José Vigo, pronounced in Spanish. Although Spanish name, Spanish parents, I was born in England and lived there all my life, so my parents came to the UK, much as a lot of Italians have come historically to the UK as well. And through the presentation I'll explain a bit more about what it's like living and working in the UK. So I work for Job Centre Plus, which is the equivalent to the public employment service here in Italy. You have regional public employment service. In the UK we have Job Centre Plus for Great Britain, and then for Northern Ireland we have another organisation. I'll explain that in a moment. And we are part of the EURES network, so we work together. You being Italian citizens or European citizens can live in up to 31 different countries, as I think was explained in the previous presentation. Okay, so to start off with, what do you think of when you think about the UK? Well, Houses of Parliament, which is where our ministers sit in our government. The presentation there with the band playing, with our royalty. Okay, so London again. That's actually Tower Bridge, not London Bridge. People get confused, even the Americans, when they tried to buy London Bridge. They brought London Bridge, was a different bridge, and they took that to Arizona Desert, and that kept their Tower Bridge, very lovely bridge. And our royal wedding from earlier this year, so I'm sure you may have caught a glimpse of that. So basically, people think of London, sometimes when they talk about England or United Kingdom, they just talk about London. However, as much as it is a great city, we do have other parts of the UK, so just to let people know, we have the capital cities of the other parts of the UK. Edinburgh, which if any of you have been to, is a lovely city. There's Royal Palace there, Holyrood Palace. Then we have Belfast. I'm not sure if any of you watched the MTV Awards a few weeks ago. That was in Belfast. Then Cardiff, capital city of Wales. And then just to show another city before there, Newcastle with the Tyne Bridge, very famous. It's a nice thing with lots of different bridges across the river there. Okay, so the United Kingdom, the map on there, which I'm not sure how well you can see it, but just go through the main cities. Well, London, as I mentioned, then Birmingham, which is our second city, then Manchester, which at the moment is famous for 2 football clubs. Unfortunately, well, for Manchester City they lost yesterday, Manchester United not so well. My team, Chelsea, playing tonight, is famous for lots of Italian managers like Carlo Ancelotti, Gianluca Vialli and Claudio Ranieri. They all appeared yesterday on the television. It's like seeing all the Chelsea managers from before. Then Leeds, Sheffield, big steel city, Newcastle I mentioned already, Bristol, and then Nottingham. If we go to Scotland, we have the capital city of Edinburgh. The biggest city actually in Scotland is Glasgow, and then Aberdeen, which is famous for its oil industry. Scotland being the country of whisky, or one of the countries with Ireland, I suppose, but famous for Scotch whisky, and also kilts, so men in skirts. Wales, capital city Cardiff, then there's Swansea, Aberystwyth, Bangor, then Wrexham as well. They actually have another language in Wales, which is Welsh, They push that as a language there. However, everyone who speaks Welsh should be able to speak English, so there should not be any problems going to Wales in terms of speaking English. And then finally we have Northern Ireland, which is separate from Republic of Ireland, a different country. Northern Ireland is part of the United Kingdom. And there's Belfast and Londonderry areas, the main cities. The United Kingdom is made up of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Great Britain is England, Scotland and Wales, and so add on Northern Ireland you have the United Kingdom. The population of the UK is estimated at 62 million. We'll have clearer figures on that probably next year because we've gone through a census. And it's estimated the population will increase to 70 million over the next 10 to 20 years. So population increasing. We're quite a small country, so population density is very, very big. So certainly in England, lots of people living in a small area. And our currency is still the British pounds. I'm not sure if and when we will join the euro, but obviously that's something different you have to be aware of when changing money. And at the moment the exchange rate is quite good for people for the euro, because it used to be £1 to 160, and I think I came last time to 3 million, now it's 115 to £1. So for me it's very expensive, but for you, if you're going from Italy with euro money to the UK, it's cheaper than it was before. Okay, the presentation gives some background information to working in the United Kingdom. Going to have a look about looking for work, some labour market information, and then finally working conditions. Okay, where to look for work? Well, you know, the EURES website, picture there. You can search for vacancies in all the European countries by occupation. You can put your CV on there online. You can also find out information about living and working in the different European countries. And also you can contact EURES advisors. We have our contact details there. In terms of our network in the United Kingdom, we have 12 EURES advisors in Great Britain and 3 in Northern Ireland. So we have a network of 15, which is very small for our population. We have the smallest network. So it's quite difficult, but we get lots and lots of inquiries from all around Europe. So we try and put as much information out for people to look on the internet, because we just don't have the resource to deal with all the inquiries. And all our vacancies from Job Centre Plus are on the EURES website, so you can search on there and find that the vacancies actually work in the UK or in the Job Centre. Then another way of finding work is jobs fairs. Through EURES we do a lot of European jobs days. We come out to other countries to take part, to give information. We've had colleagues from Europe coming to our event, which we held in Manchester a couple of weeks ago. Lots of job fairs take place. Graduate job fairs are very popular in the UK. So if you have the opportunity, I mean, it's obviously difficult if you're here, but you can look on the websites and they'll give you information about employers. Then we have UK newspapers. You can check for vacancies online on those. Company websites as well, if you're interested in particular companies. Private recruitment agencies. Private recruitment agencies are more common in the UK than most other countries. We've had a history of working with agencies for a long time. They charge the employer, not the employee, so unless they're providing extra service for standard vacancies, they charge the employer. So they're a good way of finding vacancies in certain industries such as office work. A lot of good jobs go through them. And some vacancies that we publish come through recruitment agencies. They have not only temporary work but sometimes permanent work as well. And then increasingly there's online agencies and job sites. Job Centre Plus used to have about 40% of vacancies. Now we have less, and more vacancies are going on to the job sites on the private recruitment agencies. And you can find things like Munster job sites if you do a search. So it's worth checking those websites. And then finally, the Public Employment Services, as I mentioned, Job Centre Plus Department for Employment and Learning. We have our website address listed at the bottom there, direct.gov and Northern Ireland. Okay, to go through some of the shortage occupations that we have. Okay, this is a survey that's published through our Borders agency to show where there is the greatest need for workers. And we have a need for senior care workers to look after our elderly and our disabled people. Then there's a need for skilled chefs. Obviously, Italy being a fine place for food. We're very happy if you would come along if you have those skills to cook. We have lots of Italian restaurants, very popular. We also have restaurants from all around the world, so our food is not as bad as it used to be because we have the influence from all around the world, so we have some very good restaurants there. Social workers to deal with our social problems, working for local councils and need there. And then electrical engineers. We put a few photos there to demonstrate the needs. And then well, this one here, which is just a list I will go through. There's a need for secondary education teachers in science and maths for secondary school pupils, so that's from 11 to 16-year-olds. Then teachers in special schools, doctors in accidents and emergencies. We did a recruitment project with Italy about 5 years ago, recruiting doctors from Rome. That was when we had a greater need for doctors. Now we need in especially the position of accident and emergencies. Then nurses, again we had projects, we had a project with Spain where we had a big need for nurses. Now it's specifically in operating theatres, neonatal intensive care units. If you have qualifications in doctors or nurses, those qualifications are valid around Europe and you just need to register with the relevant authority in the country you're interested in. And again with pharmacists it's the same. Veterinary surgeons look after our pets. We're a pet-loving country, lots of cats and dogs and goldfish I guess as well. Not so much of a need for vets in there. Engineering with chemical, mechanical, civil engineering. We're in the moment doing a big, it's a kind of underground line, Crossrail in London, which will run from one part of London to another, and that's going to be ready for 2017. And that's a big project. If you go to London, you'll see big work going on in the West End, in Tottenham Court Road and Bond Street. Pipe welders with high integrity, with 3 years experience. Then finally, butchers and meat cutters, skilled meat trimmers and meat boners. So this is just a selection of where we have greatest need for people. Obviously there are other vacancies available as well. However, as you all know, the job market has changed. We have unemployment rates of 8.3%. This has gone up from, I was doing this presentation in 2007, 2008, the unemployment rate went down to about 5.6%, so it's gone up quite a lot. We've gone up from 1.5 million registered to just over 2.5 million. We had about a whole year when the unemployment rate was steady, but it's gone up in the last 2 months from 7.9 to 8.3%. And that's partly, as you know, the situation at the moment. There's lots of uncertainty in the world, in Europe, and that's having an effect in the UK. The expectation was to try and reduce expenditure in the public administration, education, health, reducing the amount of people working in there. Also have a wage freeze and also pensions as well. And with that, those savings to encourage the private sector to recruit people. That seemed to be working at the beginning. At the moment, it's slowed down, but hopefully we'll have new jobs coming along. And in the longer term, things will turn around and there will be more opportunities. But at the moment, it's a very difficult employment situation. If we look at the employment rates, we have an employment rate of just over 70%, which is better than the target, the Lisbon target was set by the EU, which was 70%, so we're just above that. And within those unemployment rates, you have to look at also different regional figures as well. If you look at London, London has one of the highest unemployment rates, strangely enough. The South East, just outside London, has one of the lowest. And unfortunately for young people, the unemployment rate is around 20%. We've just gone over 1 million unemployed people, although young people from 18 to 24, That includes students though as well who are looking for work, so the figure of people who are unemployed and not studying is less than that. It's very difficult to get your first job, so we're saying to people be as flexible as possible, obviously by exploring different avenues, exploring opportunities in other countries. You are demonstrating that. Obviously be as flexible as possible about the type of work you're doing. You may have studied and hopefully you can find a job in your own field. If not, you can do other jobs and get experience and get new skills that hopefully when the labour market improves you can use in the future. And I've got there the unfilled vacancies, 482,000 figures from April. This time of year we probably have slightly more because coming up towards Christmas we have lots of Christmas vacancies working in retail and hotel and catering. So although there's a difficult situation, we have new vacancies coming in every day. There are vacancies out there for people. Going on to education qualifications, I mentioned if you have qualifications in pharmacy, doctors, teachers, some of those kind of occupations, those qualifications are recognised in Europe, so you need to go to the relevant body in each country and get them verified and get through the process, which takes a few months. For other jobs, there is something called NARIC, which exists in all the European countries. If you're interested in the UK, you have to contact the UK NARIC. If I was interested in Italy, I'd contact the Italian NARIC. And they can give you a comparison of your qualifications in Italy with the ones in the UK. However, this is not a free service, you have to pay for the UK one, and it's about £40 for the comparability, which takes about 2 weeks. However, you also have to pay to get translated into English. So I'm assuming if you have yours in Italian, then that costs another £50. It's not a direct translation, but what they will do is they will have someone there who knows Italian to be able to verify. So you're looking towards close to £100 to do this. So we'd only recommend you do this if you have to, if the employer specifically asks you, well, what is the equivalent? The Italian degree is equivalent to a UK degree, so you get by. If you're trying to compare the level of qualification, that's always difficult because the grades in Italy may be different to the UK ones, so they can only generically say, well, this degree is equivalent to this, but to try and evaluate what level it is harder. For learning the language, we encourage people to learn as much as possible before coming to the country. Sometimes people say, oh, I'll wait till I go to the UK and they won't improve their English there. Well, if your English is better, then you have more opportunities in the UK. Unfortunately, if you have very low English, the kind of occupations you're going to get are going to be the lowest level cleaning jobs or working in a kitchen. And even then it's difficult because there are other people who may speak English, so an employer may go for them. So try and improve your English as much as you can. Internet, things are in English, watch videos in English. Television, if you get the opportunity as well. I think sometimes you can watch programs in the original language. Listening to music, things like that, to try and improve whatever you can if you're interested in the UK. And the British Council can provide you more information about courses that you can carry out as well. In the UK, university courses, you can look at websites called Prospects, which is got the website as well. If you Google Prospects, it's www.prospects.ac.uk. You can find information there. Also on that website you can find information about placements or internships that we have on there. In the UK, we haven't had a history of doing many placements. And it's more of a concept in other countries. I know France is very popular. I think I suppose in Italy as well, and Spain, where they do practicas, as they say. If you want to have information about internships, placements, prospects is good. Actually, internships are becoming more and more popular in the UK because of the economic situation. To try and bridge the gap between studying and work. So they are becoming more and more, there are more opportunities, but however there are more and more students going for those opportunities. And to study in the UK, well, you need good English skills. The courses are in English. Public employment search, just a quick mention. We have a picture there of the job centre. All our job centres look like that, even Northern Ireland is very similar as well. We publish all our vacancies on the DirectGov website. We don't have a website now specifically for Job Centre Plus, because the government's trying to have just one main website where you can find information on various topics like schools, universities, housing, through the DirectGov website, which is listed at the bottom there. And Northern Ireland has a similar setup with a NI-Gov, DirectGov for Northern Ireland. Moving on to the job application process. Okay, our curriculum vitae in the UK are a maximum of 2 pages typed, so it's going to be 1 or 2 pages that you use. No longer. The biggest difference I suppose between European CVs and the British CVs is in terms of the personal information. We do not need a photo. A photo is not required, it's not standards. You do not need to list your date of birth or your age. You don't need to put down whether you're single, married, or with children either. Basically just your contact details, so an employer can contact you. The reason we don't need all this other information is because it's not relevant to the job application process. We have laws against age discrimination, which came in a few years ago, so that's why you do not need to put down your date of birth. Sex discrimination, that's why you do not need to put down whether you're male or female. Race discrimination as well, disability, and also religious beliefs as well. So all these things are really important in the job application process, so it's not required to put that information on there. However, obviously you need to put your name, your email address, contact phone number as well, so they can contact you if they want to take forward the application. Your CV should match the job, so it's all very well having one CV. Obviously it's far easier to email your CV that you have. However, you should look at what the employer is looking for and try and match the skills that you have. So you can have very different CVs. For example, if you're an engineer and you're looking for restaurant work, the CV you have for restaurant work is going to differ from the one for engineering. In the restaurant work, you maybe put down information more on the kind of things that you've done through summer holiday jobs or weekend work, maybe you've worked in a restaurant before. Whereas in engineering, it would be more pushing the studies that you've done. Try and match your CV to the job you are looking for. Covering letter, if you use one, should be typed. More and more people are going through on emails. So, on the DirectGov website, you can find information there about a CV. You can also find information there about interviews as well, and company application forms. A lot of companies in the UK, especially the big ones, and I think possibly more and more so in other countries, are using application forms. It's a way of comparing each person, so they ask the same questions on the forms. Some are quite standard, where you're just asking for information about your studies, your personal details and your education. However, some of them ask more harder questions, give examples of things like, give an example of handling a difficult situation, write down in 100 words, or an example of when you had to meet the deadline. These are far harder to do, so you need a bit of time to think about and to practice. And on the DirectGov website and also on the prospects, you can find information on there about how to go through them. Some of them are now online, so rather than having a printed version, you go through and sometimes they time you, so 30 minutes to answer all these questions. And they have questions asking you about what type of person you are. So those are very difficult as well, different from the standard procedure. And then interviews, again, as I said, you have on the DirectGov website 20 questions that employers may ask you, and you have some examples of what to do as well. Interviews in the UK tend to be formal, so it tends to be better to be dressed up smart. I mean, I'm smart today, so it's always, if you're not sure, it's better to be smarter than less smart, just in case. Okay, going through now to employment law. The national minimum wage, which was introduced around 97, 98 with the Labour government, is now £6.08 Now this figure is for anyone over 21, okay, or 21 and over. I see quite a few people here that are probably quite young. So if you're between 18 and 20 years old, the minimum wage is £4.98. So employers can actually pay less if you're younger. And also 16 to 17 year olds, the wage is even lower. I don't have the figure with me today, but it's something like £3, something or close to £4. It's peculiar that, because we have age discrimination laws to stop discrimination in terms of finding employment, we allow employers to pay less, but that's the government has allowed that as a starter wage. So bear that in mind. Hopefully employers will pay you £6.08, but as I said, if you're younger they could pay you the £4.98. In terms of jobs in hotel, catering, retail, a lot of jobs will pay the national minimum wage. So you need to bear that in mind, that it's not that much money with the cost of living rising. And if we look at London, where accommodation is very expensive and going out, that's quite a low wage. So we don't have a different wage. There has been, there's talk of something called London Living Wage, which our mayor is trying to push to try and get employers to pay the minimum, well, London, what's seen as a reasonable wage, which is £8.30. And next year, when we have the Olympics, the vacancies that are working on the Olympic Park are going to be paying the London Living Wage. However, employers aren't forced to pay that, so you'll find a lot of them paying £6.08. But that gives you an idea of how much more expensive it is to live in London than outside if you think £8.30 and £6.08. It's quite a differential. Holiday entitlements, that's 20 days plus the 8 bank holidays that we have in the UK in a standard year. That's for full-time employees, so if we're talking a 5-day week, Monday to Friday, so it's 4 weeks plus the bank holidays. However, this year, next year not standard, we had the Royal Wedding this year, so we had an extra holiday, and next year we have the Diamond Jubilee to celebrate 60 years of our Queen. So maybe everyone has an extra bank holiday. I know I get an extra bank holiday next year, which is quite nice to have an extra day off. I work for the civil service. I actually get 30 days plus the bank holiday, so I'm quite fortunate. So the civil service, I think it's minimum 21, and then you get longer the longer you are there. So some employers will give you more, but as a minimum they have to give you the 20 plus the 8 bank holidays, or if it's open on bank holidays other days. Contracts. Okay, which have prominent here, verbal contracts are, but in terms of lots of jobs in the UK, in hotel and catering, even retail, you start off with verbal contracts. An employer doesn't have to give you anything in writing until up to 2 months, okay? So it's legal to start without anything in writing. After 2 months they've been giving you anything, you have the right to ask and they give you something in writing. Now, it makes it much more flexible, much easier to start employment. I think that's one of the reasons why we have a more flexible labour market. Employers still have to give you a pay slip, though, to show how much you're earning and how much deductions there are for tax and national insurance. If you can get something in writing, it's always better, I suppose, if there's any disputes. But as I said, with contracts, it can be verbal. Within the first month, I think it's just 1 day's notice, but after that, in the first year, they have to give you 1 week's notice, as you have to give them as well. And Equality Act I've already mentioned to protect against discrimination. Okay, now we go to tax and national insurance. Our national insurance is basically social security contributions. I'm not sure if any of you have worked in the UK before. No? Okay. A national insurance number is something that you need to get. You can apply for a national insurance number once you're in the UK looking for work. You can't apply from here in Italy because you need to have a UK address. I mean, if you're going to the UK and have an address, maybe you can bring up. Normally what happens, you bring up the number, and you have to wait about a month, approximately at the moment, people coming in waiting until December. If you have an interview, and then you wait another month or two for the number. You can start work without a national insurance number. However, employers like people to have the national insurance number. It's a good idea to apply as soon as possible, and it's free to apply. It doesn't actually cost you anything, apart from maybe the phone call, or then if you go to a job centre, you bring up for free. The national insurance is the social security contribution you pay. You don't pay anything in the first £139 or £138. Then, this is per week, if you go between £139 and £817, you pay 12% of your earnings between those figures. And then anything you earn above £817, you pay 2%. So actually the contribution rate goes down after a high amount of earnings. If you're self-employed, you pay your own contributions. And now tax. Tax you do not pay in the first £7,400 if you're under 65, so I think we're all under 65 here. So that's about another £140. Basically the first £140 you pay no tax and national insurance. So I've already mentioned national insurance 12%, then you have to add on top the income tax, which is 20%. And if you go up, and these are yearly figures, up to 35,000, then you pay 40% anything above that. And then if you're lucky enough to earn over 150,000, which I think only 1% of the population does, you pay 50% tax. The 50% tax is only like a temporary measure which was brought in with the economic crisis. It was brought in about 2 or 3 years ago, and they're looking towards taking that off. But at the moment it's there, and there's a lot of debate about whether it's actually worth having it, because people who earn that amount of money may move to other countries which pay less tax. So I'm not sure, but at the moment we have those tax rates. Self-employed people pay their own tax. We have a system called Pay As You Earn, which came in the 1940s. I found that a few weeks ago. With Pay As You Earn, the deductions get done by the employer, and they're looking to actually update that now with computers. So at the moment they're trying to do a paper-based work system. As I said, so that will show on your pay slip. And every year you will get something called a P60, which shows how much tax and national insurance you have paid. Our tax year runs from April the 6th to April the 5th, so it's a little bit peculiar tax year. So just an idea of how much in the £7,400 you could earn between April and April and the year after. And now I'm going to go on to a little bit of information about living in the UK. Let's talk about healthcare, accommodation, and then finishing off there with the cost of living. Okay, I'm not sure if anyone wants to... What do you think the best thing about living in the UK would be? Does anyone want to...
Quanto pensate di spendere normalmente in Inghilterra, più o meno che in Italia?
More expensive than Italy. Accommodation, I would think, is more expensive. I'm not so sure. I mean, I'll go on to that, talking about food and things, but in the supermarket, I'm not so sure. Some food, yes, are cheaper in Italy, but some in the UK have very competitive supermarkets. So, in terms about best thing, I mean, I've been ironic here by saying the weather. Unfortunately, if you're coming into the United Kingdom with weather, you're mistaken, because unfortunately the weather is not very good. We have lots of rain, although we've not been raining too much lately. In fact, our weather has been looking at, I think it may be warmer in London today than here. It really certainly warmer than Bologna. Normally, I think it's the other way around, certainly in the summer. So if you're coming to the UK, the essential piece of equipment is an umbrella. Sometimes we have very strange days where we have lovely sunny weather, then rain, then cold all in one day, all 4 seasons in one day. Okay, other good things about the UK, the food. Well, I mentioned we have lots of different food. I've not put down Italian food on here, but pizza, pasta, those kind of foods are very popular. Fish and chips, which is traditional Friday night food, but not very healthy, the takeaways. Sunday roast beef and Yorkshire pudding. And then Indian cuisine, which again I mentioned Italian, we have Chinese cuisine, Indian cuisine. Our most popular dish is actually called chicken tikka masala, which is based on an Indian food. So you have the benefit of coming to the UK, and although I'm being slightly ironic, you can try different types of food. So we hope to have the best of everything brought in by people who come in and helped us to cook and eat better anyway. So. Okay, healthcare in the UK, we have the National Health Service, which is our public health service. So our public health service is free to access. Most services are free, so if you go to a doctor, you need emergency treatment, it's free. There are a few things you have to pay for, such as the optician, or most people pay this, they're giving vouchers but on benefits for certain categories. But most people have to pay for eye tests, dentists as well, which can be quite expensive, although there is some subsidised, but you still have to pay. And then prescriptions, which are repeat medicines, or medicines being prescribed by your doctor. However, if you are in Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland, they are free. The only place you pay is in England. And the reason why is because the health budget is administered by the different parliaments. Scotland has a parliament which has authority on health matters and education. You may have heard about the fact about paying for fees in the UK. The English students have to pay, but in Scotland, course fees are free. So these decisions made by different parliaments. Northern Ireland has its own little parliament as well, so on certain matters like health, they are governed. For registering with a doctor, if you go onto the website for the NHS National Health Service, it explains how you access the services. If you're coming to the UK and anywhere in the European Economic Area, you should get hold of what's called the European Health Insurance Card. We have a photo there, it used to be called the E111s before. You should be able to get that free from your healthcare provider, and that will allow you to have free or subsidised treatment. If you come to the UK accessing the NHS and emergency treatment, if you need to go to hospital, that would be free. In other countries it may not be, and you can use a state provider, but you would get the same service as someone from that country. So it's worth having, it's free. If you're travelling anywhere in Europe, if you need it for emergency healthcare, you have that. It doesn't replace travel insurance, which is obviously another thing to bear in mind, but at least it's there for you. Accommodation, as I said before, London is very expensive. I think possibly that's going to be the biggest difference between Italy and the UK, although I think in Milan, like that, Rome, accommodation is quite expensive. If we look at London, Edinburgh, the southeast, very expensive. These average figures, I think, more outside London than in London. If you're looking at London, you're probably looking at twice the amount. Although the price of accommodation, buying accommodation is steady, it hasn't gone down. However, rents have gone up because people aren't afford to buy, so more and more people are renting. We've actually reached record levels of rents, so rent levels are higher than ever before. If you're coming to London, I think most of you, if you're on a lower paid job, entry level, hotel and catering retail, are probably going to end up having to share a room because the rooms are so expensive. However, if you look in London, different parts of London, outer London tends to be cheaper than inner London. You can pay for travel as well. If you're outside London, the price could be half the amount. So if you're on a minimum wage, you have far more money to spend on other things if you're outside London than in London. If you're coming in, it's best to get somewhere like a hospital or hotel to start off with until you know the area, and then you can find an accommodation. Accommodation will tend to be let on 6 months, so you have a 6-month contract. You have to pay 1 month in advance, then 1 month deposit, so you're looking at 2 months rent. So you could be looking towards £1,000, which is quite a lot of money to start off with. And if you're not getting your first pay until a month later, you will need to have the money beforehand. If you can find accommodation with everything included, that helps as well, because if not, you have to bear in mind you may have to pay gas, electricity, which is very expensive this time of year. It's gone up with the heating. Sometimes telephone, well, that tends to be less and less so, but you may have internet included, water tends to be already included, council tax will be another cost as well on top. Okay, cost of living. It is not here for illustrative purposes, and again these are averages. It's it's difficult as well because there's different quality of goods. And for example, bread I put down there, £1.20. However, if you go and buy the value brands, which I'm not sure if you call white goods here, I know in Spain they call them white goods, but the very cheap bread you can get for 49p, the sliced one. So, or you can buy very fancy bread that costs you £2 or £3. So there are quite a difference between that. Prices got eggs as well. Eggs, I know local shop I can go to, you can get 12 eggs for 99p. The free range is more expensive than milk. If you shop around, we have lots of different supermarkets. We have lots of offers. Yesterday I was reading that 40% of goods brought to the UK are on promotion. Looking around the supermarkets here in Italy, you have some promotions where you reduce in the United Kingdom. It's common to go to a supermarket and find lots of offers. Buy one, get one free. So it's effectively half price. So if you look out for those offers, then you can get reduced prices. To shop around, so you can save some money. Then we have things like pints of beer, which are £3. If you're talking about London again, it's more. Outside London, less. A lot of bars run special promotions where we have happy hours, which unfortunately have the image of binge drinking, where people drink a lot. So I'm not encouraging you to do that, but bear in mind, you can save money if you look around as well. Cigarettes, I think we have the second highest tax in Europe on cigarettes, so it will be more expensive than here in Italy. I mean, you can take cigarettes with you up to a certain limit, it's supposed to be unlimited, but if you smoke. But best to give up smoking, obviously for health, and we have smoking banned within buildings, public buildings, and shops and retail. I think, I'm not sure here if that's the case, but I know in most European countries. Cinema tickets, I think we have the most expensive cinemas. £6.50, well, if you're talking about London's West End in the centre, cinema tickets will be about £13. They need to pay extra if it's a 3D movie with glasses, £2 or £3. So you're looking towards nearly £20 in some cases. So if you look around for days, there's one cinema in London on Tuesdays for only £3.50. So again, shopping around, you can save quite a bit of money in researching on the internet. Museums are free, lots of them, big art galleries in London and main cities. So again, there's things you can do for free that don't cost you money. Then buses, £1.50 there for a bus. If you're in London, if you pay by coins, it's £2.20. However, if you get what's called an Oyster card, I'm not sure if any of you have been to London, which is an electronic card, you pay a £5 deposit, and load up with £10, you pay £1.30, so it's cheaper. So it's normally cheaper to travel with these kind of cards, and I know in Nottingham, another city, has this as well, so you need to look at the local websites to look at the transport information. You may be able to buy tickets for a day or weekly, monthly, and they can work out cheaper. And then petrol, unfortunately, that's gone up as well. So if you drive, again, you get taxed quite a lot. Okay, finish off. Any questions?
Ci sono delle domande che vogliamo portare al nostro consulente inglese. Qualche questione, lui ha sollevato, ha posto l'attenzione innanzitutto sul fatto di quanto sia importante, scusate, la conoscenza dell'inglese, per cui tutti quanti siamo stati messi a dura prova in questa mezz'ora per cercare di seguirlo in quello che si stava dicendo. In ogni modo lui ha indicato in modo molto veloce, perché siamo un po' in ritardo, quanto sia importante soprattutto anche contestualizzare la nostra candidatura. Se pensiamo che adesso andare in Inghilterra sia semplice nella ricerca del lavoro, questo non è così. In realtà anche in Inghilterra abbiamo un alto tasso di disoccupazione, soprattutto fra i giovani, 18-24 anni, oltre 1 milione di giovani sono disoccupati. Per cui sono dati che assomigliano molto a quello che abbiamo in Italia, ed è su questo appunto che l'Unione Europea, la Commissione Europea sta lavorando. Avete visto ci ha ricordato che nel 2012 ci saranno i Giochi Olimpici, per cui questo è sicuramente un'opportunità di lavoro per tutti quanti, e anche delle numerose differenze, in questo caso, che esistono per esempio tra la Scozia e l'Inghilterra. Questo vuol dire che appunto le differenze non sono soltanto nazionali ma anche regionali, come d'altronde anche da noi. E in fondo, alla fine di questa mia puntualizzazione, vorrei comunque ricordarvi, ragazzi, che in questa trasformazione non bisogna farsi coinvolgere ma essere i primi, e dunque fare la scegliere diciamo la strada europea. Questo è l'invito che stiamo facendo da diversi anni. Se non ci sono domande per José, lo ringraziamo del suo intervento.